If you look at that question of a fair society, a court case at present that really highlights that and brings it into focus is this question of public funds being squandered on upgrades to Nkandla. And we know the DA announced that it would have a presence at court, but that's been largely sort of overtaken by the massive crowds of EFF members. What are you hoping will come out of today?
It's an important court case, and I think our presence there speaks to the fact that we respect the role of the Constitutional Court. We're inside the court arguing strongly the case that we want to put forward. What we want to get out of it is a declarator that says that the powers of the public protector are binding, that they're not just mere recommendation, they're remedial action, that the president must account to those and in fact be able to reprimand the ministers in question, be able to pay back a portion of the money, and that ultimately, when you look at the whole saga matter, to enforce the Supreme Court of Appeals argument that says that in fact you cannot replace the public protector's remedial action with a parallel process. This is not just about President Zuma. This is about the rule of law. It's about the future of South Africa, so that no president, no public servant can ever be able to stand up and say, we can ignore at will the remedial actions by the public protector.
Interesting you say that. You're agreeing rather strongly with what Julius Malema said to his followers outside the court today during a march. He said, I'm not against the man, but I'm here for the service of the law, and that the president needs to answer to the law. He also said something else about your party. Malema told supporters, the DA is now claiming victory on something they rejected much earlier. And that brings me to a question around your role as the DA and the EFF's role as part of the opposition as well. Do you see the two parties as being allies or largely kind of opposition parties to one another, never mind the ANC?
I am only in opposition against the ANC. If the ANC are destroying South Africa, we must build an alternative. On the question of Nkandla, let's remind ourselves where this matter began. We started in the Western Cape High Court and said the powers of the public protector must be enforced. We started at the Western Cape High Court. We then went from the Western Cape High Court and went to the Supreme Court of Appeal and said the powers of the public protector must be enforced. Yes, it was a case against Hlaudi Motsoeneng, but the principle became case law that you can use at the Concord. The EFF then, realizing that we've gone through the court process, went directly and applied for direct access to the Constitutional Court, which is something they had to argue today. So in the question about who's joining who here, I think you can see that it's not fashionable to fight for the public protector. It's something we've always stood up for. Even when it was Hlaudi Motsoeneng, we've always stood up for that. We've always stood up for the rationality of law. So our role has not only been to fight for the sanctity of Parliament, but also to fight for the rule of law as a principle. And that's why we don't even tolerate corruption in our ranks. That's why when we govern for the people, because we are guided by that principle. So it's not a fashionable thing. It's a principle matter that this party has been founded on.
Would you say that your approach is characteristic of your party? If you look at SONA last year, again, the DA tended to comply with the rules, tended to kind of use the structures of Parliament itself before walking out, whereas with the EFF, things happened much sooner and it kind of all descended into fisticuffs much faster. Your approaches seem to be quite different in terms of your use of structures and procedures that are in place.
You must decide what you hold sacred. I'm not into rule keeping for the sake of just the rule keeping. But I understand this one thing. If Parliament is broken and descends into a body that is irrelevant for the issues of the people of South Africa, then who's to hold the executive to account? Where do I go? One day the ANC is going to be gone. Today we fixated about the ANC, but they know they're a party in decline. They're on the way down. I want to make sure that one day another president who will come from another party is able to stand up and be afforded the institution to be able to implement their program. If you begin a process where ultimately the rules don't matter anywhere in society, so if I don't like a court, I go to that court and I say, well, I don't like your judgment, I'm not going to fight for the rules. Or if I don't like this news publication, I say to you, well, you write articles about me that are not right, I'm going to simply ignore you and then kick you out. You create a society where ultimately you create an environment where the institutions of government don't work. The real problem I have with the ANC is that if you think about even the National Director of Public Prosecutions, the principle there was the fact that that National Director stops following rules. They can then say, I will charge that one, I'll ignore that one, and so forth and so forth. We have a constitution. You can't say today you support the constitution and then deviate from saying the rules, the laws, the statutes that are enacted from the constitution, you must take the right to ignore. These are the things that are important. And then furthermore, to say within the rules, actually, you will keep fighting your cause. That's why we fought against Mmusi Maimane. That's why we fought to make sure that Zuma is charged, and we're going to court to make sure that court case proceeds. We want to ensure that Parliament is used in the most effective way to hold people to account. We will get to a point, if this ANC government wants to institute things like signal jammers, etc., that there will come a point where you say, well, fine, the ANC has destroyed Parliament to a point where Parliament is dysfunctional. Then you take a stance. But we must always remember that we are here, so many died for us to have the Constitution. Why do I want to start today to undermine it?